wondered why we have 4 Gospels instead of 1? Well, a brief look at the history of the Gospels will help understand why. It can also give us clues about how to study the Gospels more in depth. The life and ministry of Jesus occurred around 30 AD, but the stories about what he did and what he said weren't written down immediately. After his death and resurrection, there was a long period when different communities of Jesus' followers told and retold these stories, forming various strands of traditions about him. Finally, between about 65 AD and 90 AD, the gospel writers, at separate times and at separate places, began to weave the different oral and written pieces of the Jesus story together to create evangelistic biographies. Each gospel writer sketches a distinct portrait of Jesus, emphasizing certain aspects of his character and highlighting what themes and motifs from his story served their literary purposes best. So we have 4 complementary but diverse stories about Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Scholars who study the Gospels try to explain the connections between them by looking at their overlapping content and the sources they may have used. When comparing and contrasting the Gospels, it's clear that Matthew, Mark, and Luke share the most content. That is why these 3 Gospels are called the Synoptic Gospels. Synoptic means seeing together. How these Gospels fit together or rely on one another is sometimes called the synoptic problem or the synoptic puzzle. Source criticism is an academic discipline that seeks to discover and identify the written sources behind texts. Synoptic critics have come up with different theories about the Synoptic Gospels. The most widely accepted theory is one that proposes that Mark was written first, and Matthew and Luke used a copy or a form of Mark's Gospel as a source for their narrative. Also, that Matthew and Luke had another source they shared, a collection of Jesus' sayings, sometimes called Q. This whole theory is called the 2-document or 4-document hypothesis, or sometimes the Mark Q theory. Another popular explanation, often known as the Farrer hypothesis, suggests that Matthew used Mark and then Luke had a copy of both Mark and Matthew to consult. But what difference do these theories make when we study the Gospels? Well, my favorite way to interpret the Synoptic Gospels is to set them next to one another and ask, what do their similarities and differences tell us? Where they are in perfect agreement, we often find the key idea of that passage. For example, in the story of the man lowered through the roof to see Jesus, all 3 Synoptic Gospels record Jesus' climactic words exactly the same way. But so that you might know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, get up, take up your mat, and go home. This then is a main theme of the passage. The differences between Matthew, Mark, and Luke also tell us something. They give us a feel for what motifs are important to each gospel writer. Luke, when he begins the story of the man on the mat, adds a line to what Mark originally wrote, saying that the power of the Lord was with Jesus to heal. That power, which will also be called the Spirit, makes many appearances throughout Luke and Acts, and is a particular emphasis of Luke as an author. Looking at the Synoptic Gospels this way, then, helps us uncover new and important details about the stories we have heard growing up. So next time you read the Gospels, look up a parallel gospel account online. There's plenty. Just put in parallel Gospels or 4 Gospels parallel and start comparing and contrasting. It will yield great results, I promise. Thanks.